good morning, good morning, and welcome to Tuesday Transformation Tidbits with Patrice, where we're transforming the way of your thinking. We're empowering you to overcome obstacles, and we're igniting the passion, the power, and the potential that lies on the inside of each and every one of us. Welcome to the month of December. I am so glad that we're still in the land of the living in the last month of the last quarter of December. And we are in expectation of the great things that God is going to do. God has already done. As a matter of fact, we're getting prepared for the shift, prepared for where God is shifting us to. We're aligning ourselves to walk into 2025. We're on the bridge right now, and we're about to cross over into the next year, and we have to set our preference for what is about to take place in 2025. So in the month of December, we're going to be talking about making room in expectation for the shift. We're making room in the expectation for the shift. We're making room for the things that God is going to do. We're standing in great expectation of the awesomeness that He is going to perform, that He has already performed. But we're preparing for the shift. Prepare your mind, prepare your heart, prepare your will for the great things that God is going to do for us in 2025. For the month of December, we're going to be focusing on the scripture that talks about, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life, and I will advise you and watch over you. In 2025, that is exactly what God is doing. He is guiding us along the best pathway for our life, and He's going to advise us and watch over us. But there is something that we are entitled to do. There is something that we must do for 2025 in order to get ready. So on today, we're going to begin to talk about the things that we're going to do. And as we go into December, every Tuesday, we're going to set an expectation to be prepared for 2025. So let's begin on this morning. This morning, we are creating a space for you to show up in your life. We're creating a space for us to be who we're supposed to be authentically. We're creating that space. We're making room for what it is that God has already given us. We're making room for what it is that we want God to do. We're preparing ourselves. We're prioritizing our desires on today. So when we create space in our life, how do you create space in your life? You create space in your life by removing the things that no longer work for us. We have to remove some stuff because remember, we're going into a new year. So, in order to go into a new year, you have to change the old things and you have to make them to pass to behold the new things. So, we got to remove some things that no longer works for us. We got to remove our bad habits. We've got to remove some clusters. We've got to remove some unhealthy relationships and on and on and on. Why are we removing these things? Because we have to create space for the new energy. We've got to create space for the new people. We've got to create space for new opportunities. When we're looking at new space, the space created, we've got to fill it up with the newness that's coming. We've got to be intentional in creating change in our life. The space that we're creating is going to be created with positive change and positive energy. We're forgetting those things that transpired in 2024. We're creating and making room for the blessing that God has, for the purpose in our life that God has created. In order for us to do that, we've got to make room for the new things coming up. But we have to be intentional in what we do. We've got to be intentional and space remover. I need somebody to drop in the chat this morning. I'm making room. I'm creating space for the blessing that God has given me for 2024. I'm not holding on to the old things, but I'm creating an area to embrace the new things that's coming. I'm removing all things that are keeping me weighed down and that are not navigating me to the next level. How many of us got some stuff that we just need to move out of the way? We've got some stuff that has been keeping us down. We've got some stuff that has been weighing us down, but it's time for us to move things out of the way. Some of us in the natural sense, we're pack rats. We keep everything. So what we have is some stuff in the corner that has dust balls on it that we have not used all 2024. I want you to get rid of that this morning. We need to create the space for what God has designed for us. We need to create the space so that we're able to walk in the new purpose that God has created for us. We need to create the space to get rid of that bad stuff, that hazardous waste that we have, so that we can behold the things that God has for us in 2025. We got to create a space so that we can be authentic. Authentication is what is needed in 2025. We've got to remove the masks that are on our face. We got to take those things off so that we'll be able to connect with the people that God has designed for us to connect with. We can't connect with these people not being real. Got to be authentic. So when we're in our lives, we're filled with clutter. And when we look at the clutter, that's something that we do not need. So what we've got to do, we've got to get rid of it so we can be whole, so we can embrace what it is that God has for us. We have already gotten our purpose because we're claiming this thing by faith. We're already walking in the destination that God has designed for us. We're already fulfilling purpose, but in order to excel and fulfilling what it is that God has designed for our life, we've got to make room for it. We've got to make room and prioritize in 2025 the thing that God has called us to do. That has to be our first nature. So the ideal of letting things go, it may be panicking for you. You might be panicking right now and it says that I can't let it go. So I'm not asking you to give up everyone. I'm not asking you to give up everything or to kick it under the curb. But what I am asking you is to make a decision on today. Decide that I'm going to clean my space. I'm going to get rid of the things and the baggage that held me down in 2024. God has blessed me to have what I desired, what I asked him for in 2024. Now I've got to walk a new walk. Now I've got to talk a new talk. Now I've got to surround myself in the midst of what it is that's going to elevate me in the new year that I'm going in, right? There's some things that brought me down. There's some things that I can't take over in 2024 because it's not the design of my life. If there's something that you want or you need to change in your life, how do you go about it? What you do is you shut the door on the things that are negative. You shut the door on the things that does not have possibility for you. You shut the door on the things that are not designed to travel with you in 2025. When we go on various trips, we can't take everything, because if we take everything, we have to pay an extra cost for the baggage to go into baggage claim. And sometimes our baggage is overloaded, and we've got to take out some stuff because it is weighing too heavily and it's over the poundage that should be in order for the bag to be in baggage claims. I remember I went out of the country for one time. I think it was many years ago. It was my first time in doing ministry, and my bag was too heavy. It was over the poundage that was necessary, that was required in order for me to check my bag. So they begin to say, either you have to pay an additional cost in order to get your bag checked, or you're going to have to get rid of some of the stuff in your bag. I'm so glad that I was traveling with other people. So what I did is I got rid of some of the stuff in my bag and I put it in someone else's bag in order for my bag to meet the requirements to be checked. In order for you to meet the requirements in 2025, you've got to get rid of some of your stuff. You got to get rid of the things that you're carrying. The things that you're carrying is not meeting the expectation of what God has designed for your life. So you got to shut the door. You got to put some things. You got to put the in service. I'm not in service for some things. I'm not in service for some relationship. I'm not in service for some conversations. I'm not in service for some people that I want to deal with. I've got to shut the door. I heard an author say, I believe her name is Danielle LaPorta. She said, when you make doing your norm, you're giving up precious space to do something that isn't precious to you. So when you make doing, I'm just making doing, I'm just trying to get by. When that becomes your norm, you're giving up precious space to something that should not be precious to you. You're prioritizing something that should not have a prioritize in your life. So when she looks at that, what I took from what she means is that there's some things that should not be in use in my life. There's some people who should not be in use in my life. There's some clutter that has been giving me anxiety in 2024. I can't take that anxiety in 2025. So I've got to get rid of there. There's some jobs that has been draining you in 2024. Maybe you want to consider your mindset in 2025 as it pertains to that job. God knows, don't quit your job because I can't take care of you. But maybe you need to change your mindset concerning that job, concerning the anxiety you have. There's roles that people have played in your life that have made you feel awkward, that has made you feel cheap. There's some things that you had to compromise. There's heaviness and confusion that you went through in 2024, but you've got to get rid of it. God has already spoken to you concerning the things that you needed to get rid of to prepare you to cross over in 2025. Now it is up to you to get rid of it. It's up to you to shut the door. It's up to you to remove yourself from the things that is cluttering you, that's held you down in 2024. We're crossing over in 2025 by any means necessary. And we thank God that He's going to see fit for us to cross over. But the thing that we desired for 2024, we're declaring that we already have it, but we're preparing ourselves to excel in it. We're preparing ourselves to do what it is that God has called us to do in 2025, but we can't take old baggage. Got to get rid of it. We got to travel light in 2025. We've got to get rid of things in order to make room for that thing that God has 25. We got to immolate. We got to get rid of it. We've got to throw it away. We've got to purge, whatever words you need to use in order to prepare yourself to prevail, and 2025. That is what you need to do. You've got to hold yourself accountable to the things that God has called you for. So creating space making room for you to show up. Some of us can't show up in the purpose that God has for our life. Some of us can't walk in what God has called us to do because we're carrying baggage. But you got to make room for the things. You've got to make room for the people, the opportunities that is coming your way, that's going to help you in 2025, that's going to work with you in 2025, that's going to engage with you in 2025. Those things, you've got to make room for it. And if you do not dispose of the other things, there's no room for the new thing to help you. An example, when I'm talking about cleaning your space, If it's a job that you wanted, you got to make room for that job. And in order to make room for that job, you got to get yourself in position for the position that you're looking for. You got to get your affairs together. You got to put everything in order. You got to look at opportunities that are coming your way. And you've got to be ready for what it is that God has given you in 2025. We look at relationships, rather it's a romantic relationship, or it's just simply just a friendship. When someone is coming into your life, when you're asking God to bring someone into your life, you've got to get rid of the people who do not respect you. You've got to get rid of the people who are occupying space that's not supposed to be in your life. You've got to get rid of the people who have wasted your time in 2024. And you've got to prepare yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally to receive and to embrace what God has for you in 2025. You've got to get rid of the mentality that I'm always going to be alone. I'm always going to walk by myself. But you've got to get to the point that God, you've got purpose for me in 2025. I am going to cross over. I am currently in the last year of 2024, God, but I'm going to embrace the new relationships. I'm going to open up, Father, and begin to do ministry on a different level. I'm going to get rid of those who, Father, has brought me down, who has caused me anxiety, who has given me fear, who has spoken fear to me and negativity. And God, what I'm going to do is open myself up to receive the relationship that you have for me, that's going to prosper me, that's going to help me, that I'm going to engage in for purpose in 2025. Friendships that's drained all of your energy. You got to set boundaries in 2025. Maybe you have to spend less time with those friends who have drained your energy. Maybe you have to call them once a month versus calling them every day. But you've got to move from where you are to create space for the new friendships that you're going to have. These new friendships that you're going to have is going to propel you to the next level. They're going to take you to places that you never known that you could be able to go. You're going to be able to fly higher because now you sit in the place of elevation. You got to get rid of it. When we're talking about getting rid of it with something else, if it is a book that you ask God to help you write in 2025, you've got to start preparing yourself. If it's a trip that you wanted to take in 2025, if it's the degree that you want to achieve for 2025, you got to clear that schedule. You've got to make plans for it to happen. You've got to make plans in order for you to get that unction to begin to write. You've got to make plans in order for you to get that unction to fulfill your degree. You've got to make plans in your schedule. Some of us got to look at our schedule, and I'm one of them. I got to look at my schedule, and I have to designate time in my schedule to get that book written. Lord, help me, Jesus. I've got to make time in my schedule on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to say this is the time that I've carved out to fulfill, hallelujah, the purpose that God has called us to do, the purpose that God wants me to walk in. I've got to make plans to do it. When we look at it, so when we're inspired, you got to get plans to get that inspiration together. You've got to get plans to do that trip. You got to save up some money. You've got to schedule yourself. You got to budget yourself in order to do what it is that God has called you to do. If it's your calendar is so fulfilled and you can't feel something in it, then you've got to decide, what am I making room for? What is my desires? What am I prioritizing in my life? I asked God to do this for me. Now I've got to strategically plan how to execute what it is that God has given me to do. There is something that we're required to do. Oftentimes we ask God to do many things in life, but we never consider what is the requirement of us that it's going to take to fulfill what it is that God is calling us to do. When you create space, you create possibility. God is so strategically when he plans something. He strategically when he places us in various places. He strategically in how he tells us to ascertain what it is that he wants for our life. But we've got to execute what it is that God has called us to do. We've got to set our priorities straight. We've got to create a space for something to happen in our life. We've got to make room for the expectation. We've got to make room for the shift. We're going to be shifted in 2025. But if you're not prepared for the shift that's going to happen, you're going to walk into this purpose of God unprepared. We've got to make room. Better yet, there's some things in our life that we prayed for and we received it, but now it's time for us to clear it out. Everybody can travel with you in 2025. Everybody you can't entertain in 2025. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean we don't speak. I don't mean we don't be cordial with people. But everybody can occupy your space in 2025. If God is elevating you higher, if he's taking you to another level, if he's deepening your prayer life, if he's calling you to intercede, you can't intercede in the real realm with people if you're trying to intercede with God. You can't be in the real realm with people if you're trying to draw near with God. There's some things that we have to emulate. We've got to get rid of. We've got to move to another level in order to excel, to fulfill the purpose that God has for us. And 2025, when we're making room, because we're going to receive, if we have not already received the purpose that God has for us. Yes, we're in the last quarter. Yes, we're in the last month of the last quarter, but God has already fulfilled a lot of our promises. He has already put us into purpose. He's already given us direction for 2025. Now we've got to be strategically in our planning. Now we've got to sit down and we've got to begin to write the plan for 2025. God is giving me this. Now, God, how do I execute it? What it is that I need to do? What is my step one? What is my step two? God, how do I write this vision and make it plain for me so that even when I read it, I can run and follow it? 2025 is a year of manifestation, I believe. And God's going to manifest so many things that we have asked for. But are we ready to receive it? Have we made room? Have we created space? For the month of December, we're going to be talking about making room for the expectation of the shift. We're going to talk about many things that we're going to be shifting to. As a matter of fact, next week, we're going to be examining our motives. God, I asked you for this. Now I've got to examine my motive in this. So for your homework for next week, I want you to observe what it is that you do and why do you do it. Ask yourself, what are some of the things that hindered me in December or hindered me in 2024? Was it necessary for me to be entangled in the things that I was entangled in 2024? As a matter of fact, as I travel to 2025, is it necessary for me to keep that entanglement? What it is that I have to get rid of it? What it is that I have to move out to be more efficient and more effectively in order to fulfill, God, what you have given me. For the month of December, we're going to be looking at those things because we're setting ourselves up for 2025. We're going to be strategic in the things that we do in 2025. So my Tuesday transformation tidbit for you on today is to create space for the expectation of the shift that's going to happen in 2025. God has great things in store for us, but we've got to get rid of the hindrance. We've got to get rid of the mindset if that's a hindrance. We've got to be ready and prepared to walk into what God has behold from us. The world is not waiting for us to get ready. We've got to be ready to do what God is calling you to do. And 2024 also, I want to make one announcement before I close on today. We are partnering with the Daughters of Destiny to do Book Club 2025. And I want everyone that's on the line on today to get involved in our book club in 2025. It's going to be a book club that's going to be with the Daughters of Destiny and Teardrops Liquid Language of the Heart. We've got a book that's entitled, If Not You, Then Who? And that's the book that we're going to be reading in 2025. And that also goes on with a question: if it's not you that God called, then who? And then if it is you that he did call, there's some things that we've got to do in order to walk in excellence in the purpose that God has called for us. So on today, we're going to be giving away books. As a matter of fact, all month long, you want to check out the Daughter of Destinies, and you want to check out Teardrops Liquid Language of the Heart. You want to check out our platforms because we're going to be giving away books for the book club in 2025. And you don't know if you're going to be the winner. You don't know if your name is going to be called to receive a free book. More details is going to come concerning the book club that we're going to have in 2025. But we are partnering together because we're better together. We're partnering together to do this kingdom thing, to make sure that we're putting out who God is in the atmosphere, to make sure that we're dealing with who we are to be effective for God. So after I'm done with this broadcast on today, come back on my platform or check out the Daughters of Destiny platform to find out who won the book. If not you, the book is called, Then Who? And it's by Matthew and Khadijah Wicker. And that's the book that we're going to be looking at in 2025. And we want you to come along and engage with us. I want you to remember on Tuesday Transformation Tidbits that we've got to create the space that we need in order to excel. We've got to create it. We're about to shift into something different. And are you ready for the shift? Be amazing on today. Shalom.